Hello everybody, Drew here obviously. I had no intention of doing a video about this, but I can't resist. There has been this conversation happening in different areas of the community off and on for some time that I've noticed, and I really didn't feel a part of it, honestly. Like it was really involved me at all. So I haven't really entertained it. But lately it just keeps coming back to me. And so I suppose this is kind of a video response, although it's not in response to any individual. I am not talking about anyone at all, honestly. Mostly what I've heard of this has been in snippets in passing, and I wouldn't even remember where I heard about it or saw it. And I've never heard anybody being nasty about it, but it just really got me thinking, the whole thing. And it's this sort of idea of witchy aesthetics. You know, at first, witchy aesthetics, what does that even mean? But then I got a little deeper into it, and apparently it's this, from what I'm understanding, it's this idea that someone appears to be witchy, that they post all the right pictures, that kind of thing, but they may or may not actually be a witch. The latest thing that I've heard about this has been like Instagram witches, which is a thing, I guess. I don't know. I'm in my own little world, y'all. But apparently they post these very beautifully staged pictures with witchy aesthetics. And that in of itself isn't necessarily anything to look any deeper into, but apparently some people do. They go to their page and they look. And I guess the idea is that they have this sort of, it's like if you go to my Instagram feed, you're going to see witchy pictures. You're going to see pictures of twigs and leaves and bugs and dogs and whatever. Whereas with these, I guess when you look at their feed as a whole, it sort of tells a story. There is this overarching theme, which honestly I think is pretty impressive. But I can see how some might look at that as sort of a facade, as being fake. I get that. Personally, I really like those pictures. I really love those really dramatic, fully staged, perfect pictures. I think they're beautiful and I enjoy looking at them. Is that what my everyday craft looks like? No, obviously not, but I still enjoy looking at those. And honestly, when I take photos to post on my business Facebook page and for Instagram with regards to my business, they are fully staged. I mean, it takes me hours. They are beautiful, perfect, witchy aesthetic. Because I'm trying to be professional about it, for one. And of course I want to convey a theme in the picture that fits the product. So I guess my point is there would be more than one reason. I think it's a very complicated issue. I think it's really oversimplification to sit and say they're just fake. I mean, there could be any number of reasons why someone does this. I'm being tickled by my plant, by my ivy. Hello, Ivy. I'm going to compare it to the crazy crystal people. I have seen so many people on clips of videos or on television or what have you that are talking about crystal and working with crystal energies and healing crystals and blah, 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 that sound absolutely cuckoo. And I'm just like, great. Now, everybody who's never worked with crystals, doesn't know anything about it, is looking at all of us like we're crazy because they have no rational thought and they don't have all the information. They've just got these little bits and pieces and they're filling in the blanks. And there is no coherent thought process to follow with regards to working with crystals. So it just sounds nuts. you're going to have that, what you could call posers, in any situation. I have known chicks that would pretend to be into hot rods so that they could meet the hot guys who were, into cars. There are going to be posers for whatever reason in any group. But I really wanted to sort of analyze why these people might be doing this. And I mean, I don't think there's any one answer for that. If someone has this sort of facade of witchiness, but is not an authentic gross, that's so gross, witch, why? Maybe they want to be a witch, but they just are clueless on where to start. Maybe they've been so overexposed to this Hollywood idea of what it is to be a witch, and that they're just clueless, and they're completely in fantasy land, and they're not grounded in any sort of reality at all. There's the possibility that they are somehow using the community. Maybe they're trying to make a buck off of us, or whatever. There may be some other intent that I can't even imagine, because my mind just doesn't go there, for them to be tricking us, trying to trick us, trying to blend into the community for some reason. And that sucks, but it's certainly a possibility. Maybe they're just trying to find somewhere to belong. A good majority of witchy people are misfits in regular society and have found their place in paganism somewhere. Maybe they're just trying to be edgy and cause ripples, because let's face it, this is controversial in a lot of places. Maybe they see all the others and they think it's the in crowd and they're trying to get in, again, trying to find a place to be. Maybe they're trying to get Insta famous. Who knows? There could be a million different reasons. For me personally, though, I would hope that if people are putting up this front like they're witches and they're not, that they would find themselves. I would want to send the intention and energy to them that they find themselves, because I know before I found my path, or before spirit slammed it on top of me, I should say, but before then I felt lost and I wasn't whole and I wasn't happy, and I would hope that they would be able to find their place wherever that is. Another thing that I've noticed goes hand in hand with this whole witchy aesthetic thing is materialism. People talking about witchy materialism. If you want to wear a witchy t-shirt, please wear a witchy t-shirt. I think it's really silly. Aesthetics are extremely important to human beings. If your aesthetic is minimalism, sorry about the barking dog in the background, guys. If your aesthetic is minimalism, that's still an aesthetic. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with buying things. I have so many things that could be labeled as witchy, and I plan on getting so many more. That's just my aesthetic. I like that. But my dear soul sister who named me, she didn't have any of that. She had crystals and sticks and rocks. That's it. She didn't have cauldrons and mortar and pestles and herbs, and if she needed something, she'd get it and use it and it'd be done. And she just wasn't a collector witch at all. And that's fine. Both are fine. People, if you are a person who likes things, of course you're going to want things and witchy things if you're a witch. It's just stupid to think that we shouldn't buy things or, shouldn't try to create the aesthetic that appeals to us. That's just silly. I have one witchy friend who's all about skulls and skeletons and has them all over. And then there's my witchy sister who named me, who I said, she had crystals and she had rocks and she had driftwood and sticks. And I mean, this woman literally had a stone circle in her home. And I don't mean crystals, I mean rocks. Rough rocks, smooth river rocks, just a huge stone circle in the middle of her living room. That was her aesthetic. I have another witchy friend whose aesthetic involves crystals and Josephine wall paintings. My other friend who she's witchy, but she's not a witch, but she's definitely witchy. She was even raised in a witchy culture. But her aesthetic, you walk into her house and there's books, piles of books, and there's tarot cards everywhere, and there's crystals, and there's salt lamps, and there's sort of this bohemian flair because that's her aesthetic. My house, you come in, there's depictions of the Green Man all over the place. There is swords and there are crystals everywhere, and there are sticks and bones, and that's my aesthetic. If you go into my studio, there's going to be cauldrons and mortar and pestles and all kinds of mess. It's an individual thing. It's an individual choice, an individual lifestyle, an individual aesthetic. Another point that I've heard made is that in these pristine Instagram staged photos, you can obviously see that they are not working altars because they're pristine. There's no wax on the altar cloth. There's no herbs or ash or what have you laying around on the altar. And this, again, kind of cracks me up because if that's your criteria, then you would definitely look at me like I was a fake witch. You wouldn't think that I was a witch because I have many altars. Let's see, I've got a prosperity altar. I actually do workings on that altar. It's like very tiny. It's like super tiny, little shelf on the wall. I have an altar on my conjuring cabinet, my big white cabinet that's always in the back of my videos, but I don't work at that altar at all, and it's mostly herb storage. I have what I refer to as my angel altar, which is essentially just a place to connect with deity and spiritual beings of any kind. I don't do workings at that altar. My husband has his alchemy altar. He does not do workings at his alchemy altar. I have my shamanic ancestor altar, which is where I keep my shamanic tools, and I work with, petition, honor, and make my offerings to my ancestors at, or the ancestors at. But I don't do workings at that altar. I do not have a working altar. My candle making table is the perfect height for a standing altar, and that's where we do our rituals. We clear off all the candle making stuff and we set it up. It's a temporary altar each time we do ritual. And when I do spells, I just set up wherever. I have a little travel altar, like goddess tray altar, that I'll work on, or I'll work on my living room floor, or I'll come out here in the backyard and work in the backyard. I'll work at my kitchen table. I'll work on the floor in the studio. I'll work at my desk in the studio. I will do workings wherever the hell I feel like. I have my coffee table in the living room, wherever I feel like doing them. I don't have a working altar. So my altars always look pristine. So if there were people to see that, they might think, oh, well, she's fake. She's an Insta witch or whatever. She's not a real witch. And so that just puts me in this frame of mind. The whole thing has just put me in this place of what makes a witch. I bet if I asked 10 different people from 10 different parts of the world, they'd give me 10 different answers. There are going to be people who think that a witch follows a goddess-centric path. I don't do that. For me, spirit is beyond gender. Now, I work with goddesses, I work with gods, but my path is not goddess-centric. There are people in this world who would probably think, well, she's not a witch. I do not practice ritual for every full moon or every new moon. I do it when I feel like doing it. I certainly observe the full moon, but I don't even always observe every new moon. Like, if I'm busy and it doesn't occur to me that the new moon is coming, then it doesn't occur to me. There are people who might think, oh, well, she's not a real witch. I do not resonate with all the Sabbats. I do not celebrate all the Sabbats. I acknowledge them. I honor them in my own way, but they don't resonate. I don't celebrate. There are people who would think she's not a real witch. I don't know. Again, this video isn't aimed at anybody. It really isn't. I'm not calling anybody out. I've not heard anybody be overly nasty. I've not heard anyone say that somebody's not a real witch. It just seems to me that it's a slippery slope and it could go there. And I just want to pose the question. I mean, you don't have to answer me in the comments, but I would really love if you watch this video, if you really contemplate it, you really think about it. What makes a witch? It's kind of a rhetorical question. It's just something for each of us to sit with and on a philosophical level. If I never do a spell, does that mean I'm not a witch? If I don't do full moon ritual, does that mean I'm not a witch? If I don't celebrate the Sabbath, does that mean I'm not a witch? If I don't connect with Gaia, does that mean I'm not a witch? I mean, the answer may be yes to some of those questions for you. I don't know. I may do a video at some point where I talk about what makes a witch when I have thought about it a little bit more. And I invite anyone who wishes to do so themselves to do so. I would love to hear what in your mind makes a witch. Because I'd like to know. It seems to me that we all probably have some different answers. I don't know how to end this video. It's just a ramble. Thanks for listening, guys. And until next time, much love and gratitude.